The streets of Guadalajara, Mexico, pulse with an untamed energy. It's a city where dreams often fade under the weight of reality. But for a young girl named ALEXA Grasso, it became the forge of her destiny. Raised in a family where combat was a tradition, she watched her father and uncle hone their craft, their passion for fighting sparking something deep within her. Her path, however, would be anything but easy. From the very beginning, she faced an uphill battle, a young girl stepping into a ruthless world, determined to etch her name in history. She was just 12 when her uncle spotted something rare in her, hands that carried untapped potential. He invited her to train, but hesitation filled the air. Her mother feared the brutal world her daughter was about to enter. Yet, ALEXA made a vow, a promise that her education would never suffer, no matter how much she trained. And so, with bruised knuckles and unyielding ambition, she split her time between school books and training gloves. What she didn't realize was that she was paving the way for something unprecedented, becoming a warrior who would shake the very foundations of the UFC. The gym reeked of sweat and sacrifice, a proving ground where only the relentless thrived. ALEXA, just a teenager, stood on the edge of the mats, heart pounding. This wasn't a playground, it was an arena where pain was the teacher and respect had to be earned. As she laced up her gloves, she knew there was no turning back. Her uncle Francisco, a veteran of the fight game, studied her closely. He saw it, that fire that couldn't be extinguished. But could she endure what lay ahead? Her first true test arrived in the form of a boy, her size, her weight, but seasoned beyond her years. He didn't hold back. The moment the sparring match began, he attacked with unrelenting force, his fists crashing into her guard. "Don't take it easy on her," the coach roared, and the boy obeyed. The onlookers expected her to crumble, to be overwhelmed. But ALEXA wasn't there to merely endure, she was there to win. A shift, a calculated maneuver, and in the blink of an eye, she had him in a chokehold. 10 seconds. He struggled, then silence. The match was over. The room erupted, but ALEXA stood motionless, absorbing the weight of what she had just accomplished. One battle was won. But the war was just beginning. That victory was a turning point, proof that she belonged in the world of warriors. But one triumph meant nothing if she couldn't continue proving herself. Her uncle pushed her harder, drilling techniques, sharpening her instincts. Each night, she returned home exhausted, muscles aching, knuckles raw. Yet she never uttered a word of complaint. She had made her choice. The only path forward was through struggle. Then came her first real fight. Not in a gym, not a mere sparring session, but under the bright lights. At just 19 years old, ALEXA Grasso stepped into a professional MMA cage. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. Across from her stood Sandra Del Rincon, an opponent with more experience, eager to establish dominance. The bell rang. Before the commentators could even complete their introductions, the fight was over. A devastating knockout. First round. Seconds into the bout, the audience gasped in shock and admiration. A young girl from Guadalajara had just announced herself to the world. But was it a stroke of luck? A mere fluke? Her response came in the next match. Another knockout in just 12 seconds. The message was clear. Mexico had a new force in MMA, and her name was ALEXA Grasso. Whispers turned into echoes. Who is this fighter? A knockout in 15 seconds. Another in 12. Some called her a prodigy. Others called her a storm on the horizon. But ALEXA tuned out the noise. Her next challenge loomed. A rival determined to halt her momentum. The world watched, waiting to see if she could sustain her streak. The cage door slammed shut. The referee signaled. The fight began. 36 seconds later, it was over. Another opponent crumbled, another statement made. ALEXA Grasso wasn't merely winning, she was dismantling everyone in her path. With 4 consecutive victories, she captured the attention of one of women's MMA's biggest proving grounds, Invicta FC. Here, warriors were refined, legends were shaped. And ALEXA, she had just secured her place among them. But with success came expectation, and expectations brought pressure. Each fight, each victory, enlarged the target on her back. She wasn't just a prospect anymore, she was a fighter every opponent wanted to take down. And in Invicta, the competition was merciless. Would she rise, or would she fall? The greatest test of her life was about to begin. Entering Invicta FC was akin to stepping into a den of predators, fighters, veterans, and relentless challengers who had no room for weakness. ALEXA wasn't just battling for wins anymore, she was fighting for her place in the sport. And her first trial came against Ashley Cummins, a battle-hardened warrior known for breaking spirits. It was ALEXA's first true war inside the cage. Cummins brought relentless pressure, aiming to drag ALEXA into deep waters. Clinches, takedowns, submission attempts. She threw everything at the young Mexican fighter. But ALEXA didn't drown. She adapted, countered, and when the moment was right, she struck like lightning. The judges rendered their decision unanimous. ALEXA had conquered her first Invicta challenge, but there was no time for celebration. In 2 months, she was back in the cage, facing Alida Gray, a heavy-handed striker with bad intentions. The fight barely began before ALEXA unleashed a ruthless assault, dropping Gray in under 2 minutes. Her name was spreading. The world was watching. But in the shadows, fate was crafting its own trial. A challenge that would push ALEXA to her very limits. An opponent who would drag her through fire, testing her resolve, her endurance, her soul. The road to greatness was about to grow even steeper. ALEXA Grasso had carved her name into the Invicta FC ranks, but the road to greatness was only getting harder. The victories had come fast. The knockouts had been vicious, and the hype was real. But the world was about to see if she could handle the heat when the flames burned the brightest. Her next battle would be against Mizuki Inoue, a relentless warrior with an iron will. This wasn't just about striking, it was about survival. Mizuki brought a suffocating pressure, relentless takedown attempts, and a never-ending gas tank. From the opening bell, ALEXA was forced to dig deep. Every clinch was a test of strength, every scramble a battle for control. But ALEXA refused to break. She countered every move, landed precise strikes, and showed the world that she wasn't just a knockout artist, she was a complete fighter. The final horn sounded, and when the judges rendered their verdict, her hand was raised. ALEXA had survived the war. Her momentum was undeniable. The world was taking notice. But with each victory, the stakes rose higher. The UFC was watching, and her next fight would be the final step before reaching the sport's ultimate proving ground. Jody Escobel stood in her way, a veteran, a striker, and a fighter with something to prove. The fight was a brutal exchange of power and precision. Jody came forward with a storm of punches, refusing to back down. But ALEXA was faster, sharper, more calculated. She controlled the pace, dictated the exchanges, and by the end of the fight, there was no question. ALEXA had dominated. And then, everything changed. Dana White was watching. The UFC had made its decision. ALEXA Grasso was getting the call. Her UFC debut was set, UFC Fight Night 98 in Mexico City. The energy was electric. The crowd roared as she walked to the cage, the weight of an entire nation on her shoulders. Her opponent? Heather Jo Clark, a tough, seasoned veteran looking to derail the rising star. From the opening bell, Alexa put on a clinic. Her boxing was crisp, her footwork flawless. Clark tried to impose her will, but Alexa was too fast, too precise. The rounds slipped away, and when the final horn sounded, the judges were unanimous. Alexa Grasso had arrived in the UFC. But success in the UFC is a double-edged sword. The moment you win, the sharks start circling. And the next opponent wasn't just coming for a fight, she was coming to humble the Mexican rising star. Her name was Felice Herrig, a battle-tested veteran with world-class grappling and an unforgiving clinch game. The UFC wasted no time testing Alexa's limits. Could she survive the deep waters of the division? The fight was brutal. From the opening exchange, Herrig imposed her will. She closed the distance, dragged Alexa into a clinch war, and suffocated her with relentless pressure. This wasn't the striking battle Alexa was used to. This was a grind. She fought with everything she had. But Herrig's experience proved too much. The final bell rang, and for the first time in her professional career, Alexa Grasso had lost. Defeat is a cruel teacher. It exposes weaknesses, shatters confidence, and leaves fighters with a choice. Accept that you're not good enough, or come back stronger. Alexa made her decision. She would evolve. She dissected the loss, trained harder than ever before, and stepped back into the cage against Randa Marcos, a relentless wrestler known for dragging opponents into deep waters. This was the fight Alexa needed. The bell rang, and Marcos wasted no time trying to impose her grappling. But this wasn't the same Alexa Grasso. She stuffed takedowns, landed sharp counters, and fought with a level of composure that silenced the doubters. 3 grueling rounds later, the judges delivered a split decision. Alexa had won. But the UFC had no plans of giving her an easy road back to the top. Her next challenge? Tatiana Suarez, a wrestling nightmare, an undefeated wrecking machine. The fight was a nightmare. Tatiana wasted no time dragging Alexa to the mat, dominating her with suffocating top control. There was no escape, no space, no mercy. Within minutes, Alexa was trapped in a submission. She had no choice but to tap. It wasn't just a loss. It was domination, the kind that makes fighters question everything. Sitting in the locker room, battered and defeated, Alexa faced the hardest question of her career. Had she reached her ceiling? She wasn't done. She wasn't broken. But if she wanted to rise again, something had to change. And so, the reinvention of Alexa Grasso began. The strawweight division had been brutal. The weight cuts had drained her. The relentless wrestlers had exposed her flaws. It was time for a transformation. The answer? A move up to flyweight. She would be stronger, faster, more durable. But moving up wasn't enough. She needed to become something new. For months, she trained in silence, sharpening her wrestling, refining her ground game. No more easy takedowns, no more helpless moments. Her flyweight debut was set. Ji-yeon Kim, a taller, rangier striker with dangerous power. The question loomed. Had Alexa really changed? The fight began, and the answer was immediate. This was a new Alexa Grasso. Her movement was sharper, her striking crisp, her confidence unshakable. She controlled the pace, picked Kim apart, and when the final bell rang, the judge's decision was clear. Alexa had won. It wasn't just a victory. It was a statement. She wasn't just here to compete at flyweight. She was here to take over. Her next opponent, Maycee Barber, a relentless fighter with knockout power, an aggressive brawler labeled as the division's future. This wasn't just a fight, it was a test. The moment the fight began, Barber charged forward, throwing bombs, trying to break Alexa with sheer pressure. But Alexa didn't break. She stayed composed, picked her shots, and countered beautifully. As the rounds passed, Barber became wilder, sloppier, and Alexa took full control. Then came the final moments of the fight. Barber, desperate, swung recklessly. Alexa slipped, countered, and landed a sharp right hand. The bell rang. The war was over. Alexa Grasso had won. The rankings were shifting, and Alexa was climbing fast. Her next opponent, a battle-tested veteran, Joanne Wood. A win here would mean only one thing. A title shot was within reach. Alexa had fought her way back from the depths. She had transformed. She had reinvented herself. Now, she was one victory away from making history. The world had no idea what was coming. Alexa Grasso had climbed back from adversity, proving that true warriors don't crumble under defeat. They evolve. The victory over Joanne Wood wasn't just another win, it was a declaration. Alexa Grasso was ready for a title run. The flyweight division was stacked with contenders, but only one name mattered now: Valentina Shevchenko, the reigning champion, a dominant force, the most feared fighter in the division. For years, Shevchenko had crushed every challenger, dismantling them with ruthless precision. The oddsmakers had Alexa as a massive underdog. Few believed she could pull off the upset. But Alexa wasn't here to be a statistic. She was here to take the crown. UFC 285. The world was watching. The cage door locked, and Shevchenko wasted no time asserting her dominance. She pressured, launched vicious kicks, and controlled the pace. Alexa fought back with crisp boxing, but the champion's experience showed. Then disaster struck. Shevchenko secured a takedown. She smothered Alexa, controlling her on the mat. The rounds slipped away, and Alexa was falling behind. But champions are not just born in dominance. They are forged in moments of opportunity. Round 4. Shevchenko, confident, threw a spinning back kick. She missed, and in that instant, Alexa Grasso saw her moment. Like a predator sensing weakness, she pounced. She jumped on Shevchenko's back, locked in a tight rear-naked choke. The crowd erupted. The champion was trapped. Shevchenko struggled, desperate to escape, but Alexa's grip was unbreakable. Seconds stretched into eternity. And then, Shevchenko tapped. The impossible had happened. Alexa Grasso was the new flyweight champion of the world. Tears filled her eyes as the belt was wrapped around her waist. Mexico had a new UFC champion. She had done the unthinkable. She had dethroned Valentina Shevchenko. But winning the belt was only half the battle. The true test of a champion is in how they defend their throne. Shevchenko demanded a rematch. The world debated. Was Alexa's victory a fluke? Could she do it again? The UFC wasted no time in booking the rematch. UFC Fight Night. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 2. The stakes were higher than ever. Alexa wasn't just fighting for the belt, she was fighting to prove she was the rightful queen of the division. Shevchenko came out sharper, more aggressive. She was a woman possessed, determined to reclaim her crown. The fight was a war. Takedowns, striking exchanges, moments of pure chaos. Both warriors pushed each other to the limit. As the final round approached, the scorecards were razor close. It all came down to the last 5 minutes. Then, in the dying moments, Alexa saw her chance. She took Shevchenko's back, the same position that had won her the title before. The crowd held its breath. She squeezed. The clock ticked down. The final horn sounded. The judges' scorecards were read. 1 for Alexa, 1 for Shevchenko. The last question mark a draw. Alexa Grasso was still the champion. In the debate raged on. Had Alexa truly beaten Shevchenko again, or had she merely survived? Fans demanded a trilogy, a final battle to end the rivalry once and for all. But Alexa's journey was far from over. The division was filled with hungry challengers. New threats were emerging. She had climbed to the top. Now the real question was, how long could she stay there? The world would soon find out.